Right. So today we are going like deep, deep into Deuteronomy 1.
Oh,
Exciting.
it's kind of like
Okay.
okay, so imagine this. You've been working on this huge project
Right.
for like 40 years.
Oh, wow.
You're so close to the finish line.
Okay.
But then things get a little complicated.
I've been there.
And that's kind of what's happening with the Israelites in this chapter.
So they're on the verge of the promised land.
Exactly. 40 years wandering in the desert.
Wow.
Finally, they're there.
You'd think they'd be ready to just like walk right in,
You would think, right?
but it's not quite that simple.
Not at all. And that's what makes Deuteronomy 1 so fascinating. It sets up all these themes,
Totally. Leadership, faith,
consequences.
big time. It's like a blueprint for the whole book.
Exactly. But it's also like surprisingly relatable.
Oh, absolutely. It's about human nature.
Our relationship with God.
Yeah, with something bigger than ourselves, for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, so it all starts with God telling the Israelites, all right, time to leave Mount Horeb. Go claim the land I promised to your ancestors.
Sounds straightforward enough.
Right. But here's the thing. Their numbers have exploded during those 40 years in the desert.
Oh, so it's not just a small group anymore.
No way. It's like suddenly having to manage like 10 times the workload,
Oh, I feel that. Ever had that happen on a project?
All the time.
Oh.
And Moses realizes this too.
So what does he do?
Well, he can't lead this massive group all by himself.
Makes sense.
So he delegates.
Smart move.
He appoints these like wise leaders from each tribe to help him out.
Delegation, see? A timeless leadership lesson right there in Deuteronomy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anyone who's ever felt overwhelmed by a project can relate to that, right?
Yeah. But it's not just about dividing the tasks,
Oh, there's more to it, for sure.
The text is really specific about the qualities Moses looks for in these leaders.
Okay, so what are we talking about here?
Well, he wants people who are wise, discerning,
Got it. Makes sense.
able to judge fairly, respected by their tribes.
So he's basically creating a leadership dream team here.
Basically, it's not just about managing logistics.
Right, they need to inspire and guide the people too.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important point for anyone in a leadership position.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether it's at work,
Community group.
even family. Yeah.
Totally. Finding the right people, trusting them, empowering them to lead effectively. That's huge.
Huge. Okay, so we've got our leadership team in place.
We're making progress.
Things are looking good, right? But
But
there's always a but. And in Deuteronomy 1, that but comes in the form of the spy mission.
the spies.
So Moses sends 12 of them.
One from each tribe.
Yep, to scout out the land, right?
Totally.
They come back with these glowing reports about how fertile and abundant it is.
And like, God was right.
Totally. Confirmation of his promise.
But then,
But then, things take a turn. 10 of the 12 spies totally freak out. I know, right? They start focusing on all the obstacles, all the reasons why they can't possibly conquer this land.
like what? What kind of obstacles?
They're talking about fortified cities, powerful inhabitants.
Okay, that sounds a little intimidating.
Yeah, and they even say that the people there are giants.
Giants, come on, really?
I know, talk about a buzzkill, right?
Yeah, for real.
So suddenly the mood shifts from like excitement and anticipation to straight up fear and doubt.
I can see how that would happen.
It's like they completely forgot everything they'd experienced for the past 40 years.
All the miracles, God's guidance, the whole point of the journey.
Exactly. It's wild.
It really shows you how powerful fear can be.
Oh, absolutely. Even when we have like evidence of past successes and promises for the future.
Fear can still like totally cloud our judgment.
It's crazy. And for the Israelites, this fear has some major consequences.
Okay, this is where things get interesting. So how do the Israelites react to all of this?
That's the big question, right? Do they choose to trust God's promise?
Or do they give in to their fear?
Wow.
I have a feeling I know where this is going.
You probably do.
Spill it, what happens next? It's easy to kind of look back and judge them,
The Israelites.
Yeah, for like not trusting God more, but
What?
haven't we all been there? Like
Right.
you face a challenge and suddenly you're just filled with doubt.
Oh, totally.
And it's like all the evidence in the world can't shake that feeling.
It's so true. Like, even when you know logically that things will probably work out,
Right.
you still get that, like, not in your stomach.
Exactly. And you start focusing on all the what ifs and the worst case scenarios.
Oh, for sure. Like, think about a time you had a big goal,
Okay.
maybe a career change, or like even just a personal project you really wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever let fear hold you back from going for it?
It happens to the best of us. It's like that balance between faith and fear.
Totally. We're all wired for both.
Absolutely. But Deuteronomy 1, it really highlights this choice we have.
Between faith and fear.
Exactly. Which one are we going to let lead us?
That's a powerful way to put it. So how do we choose faith then?
It's not about ignoring reality, right?
Right.
It's about trusting that even though things are tough, we can get through it.
Okay, so not just blind optimism.
No, not at all. It's about having this deeper trust, not just in God,
Right.
but in ourselves too, in our abilities and the people around us.
Oh, that's good. Like trusting your support system.
Exactly. It's about building that resilience,
That ability to bounce back from setbacks.
Yes. And keep moving forward even when things get tough.
Okay, I like that. And speaking of tough, we can't forget about consequences.
Oh, yeah, the Israelites faced some big ones.
Huge consequences. All because of their lack of faith.
Their choice led to, 40 more years in the wilderness?
40 years. Can you imagine?
Talk about a detour.
It really shows you that our actions, they have ripple effects.
Big time. And sometimes those effects, they last way longer than we expect.
Okay, but hold on. The story doesn't end there, right?
Nope, not quite. They actually try to take things into their own hands.
Even after God's judgment.
Even after. They have this moment of regret, like, oh, we messed up. And they decide to attack the land anyway.
So they just completely ignored what God told them.
Basically, they were like, nope, we got this.
Talk about impulsive.
Total impulse decision. And it kind of reminds me of those moments we all have, you know.
We just want to fix things ourselves.
Yes, without really thinking things through or considering the bigger picture.
And usually that doesn't end well, does it?
Not usually, no. Just like with the Israelites.
What happened?
Total defeat. They charged into battle without God's blessing.
Yeah.
It was a disaster. It's like the text is telling us good intentions aren't enough.
We need more than that.
We need to be aligned with something bigger than ourselves.
Okay, so how do we know if we're aligned?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right. Like, how do we take these ancient stories and apply them to our lives today?
Because let's be real, we all face challenges.
We make mistakes. We deal with the consequences.
It's part of being human. So how do we learn from the Israelites and make better choices?
How do we build stronger relationships?
How do we live lives that are, truly fulfilling?
That's what we're going to explore in part 3.
Big questions, big answers coming up.
All right, so we've talked about the Israelites, their doubts, the consequences and all that. But how do we actually apply all this to our lives today?
Well, one thing that really stood out to me was how the Israelites were dealing with all this conflicting information.
Yeah, like Caleb and Joshua saying one thing and then the other 10 spies saying something totally different.
Exactly. And today, it's like we're constantly bombarded with information from everywhere.
Oh my gosh, yes. News, social media.
Opinions.
It's information overload. So how do we, cut through all the noise and make good decisions, especially when we're feeling unsure?
That's where I think discernment comes in.
It's discernment, okay.
It's like being able to really evaluate information,
Okay.
not just taking things at face value.
So questioning things.
Exactly. Questioning your assumptions, looking for different perspectives.
Not just jumping to conclusions.
Right. It's about taking a step back,
Breathing.
Breathing, exactly. And asking yourself, what's the bigger picture here?
What's really going on?
Yeah. And what are the consequences of my choices?
What's important to me?
Yes. What aligns with my values and my vision for my life?
Okay, so it's about being intentional, not just reacting to everything around us.
Exactly. It's like having that inner compass.
Guiding you.
Exactly. Helping you navigate all the craziness of life.
I like that. And, another thing we see in Deuteronomy 1 is that whole idea of learning from mistakes.
Oh, yeah. The Israelites made a big one.
Huge. And they paid the price.
But their experience, I think, can be really valuable for us.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we actually learn from our mistakes?
It starts with just acknowledging them, I think.
Without beating yourself up about it.
Exactly. Be kind to yourself. But then ask, what can I learn from this?
How can I do better next time?
Right. It's about having that growth mindset.
Like knowing we're all a work in progress.
Yes. We're always learning and growing.
So it's about turning those mess-ups into something positive.
Exactly. Like, okay, I messed up, but now I know better.
Next time will be different.
I love that, and I think that's such a powerful message from Deuteronomy 1.
That even when we make mistakes, we can choose a different path.
We can learn and keep moving forward.
With faith, courage, and doing what's right.
Beautifully said.
That's inspiring. It really makes you think,
What helps us stay strong when things get tough? How do we find that inner compass? And how do we turn our mistakes into opportunities to grow? something we all deal with.
Absolutely. But by looking at these ancient stories,
And finding those connections to our lives today,
we can learn so much.
we can face those challenges with more clarity and purpose.
And resilience.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder all of that.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Deuteronomy 1.
Until next time, keep exploring and keep seeking that wisdom that helps us live more meaningful lives.